The paper plate made a sad little thunk when my mother set it down in front of me. "There you go, sweetie," Meredith said, her voice dripping with that particular brand of fake sweetness she reserved for public displays of motherhood. "I know you're used to eating with the kids anyway." My name is Nicole, and I should have turned around and walked out right then. But I didn't. I never did. Benjamin got the good china, of course. The wedding china with the delicate gold rim that only came out for special occasions, which apparently meant any time my Harvard-educated finance bro brother graced us with his presence. His fiancée Jocelyn got matching plates naturally. Even Dad got real dishes. Me? Paper plate royalty, population 1. "So, Nicole," Benjamin said, cutting into his perfectly grilled steak with actual silverware while I held a plastic fork, "still playing house with other people's kids?" The backyard fell silent except for the sizzle of the grill. Dad cleared his throat. Jocelyn examined her manicure. Meredith actually smiled. "She's doing very well for herself," Dad offered weakly. "Oh, I'm sure she is," Benjamin continued, that smirk spreading across his face like spilled wine on white fabric. "What's the going rate for professional babysitting these days? 15 an hour? 20 if you're really good with diapers?" Jocelyn giggled. Actually giggled. "I work with families," I said quietly, cutting my steak with the edge of my plastic fork. "I help parents." Right, Benjamin waved his hand dismissively. "You're like what do they call it? A nanny? That's adorable, really. Most people grow out of playing mommy, but hey, if it pays the bills." Meredith leaned forward, her eyes bright with the kind of malicious joy that comes from watching someone else get torn down. "Benjamin's just gotten another promotion, you know. Senior vice president now. They're talking about making him partner before he's 35. 34, actually," Benjamin corrected, puffing up like a peacock. "Youngest in the firm's history." "Meanwhile," Meredith continued, turning to me with that smile that never reached her eyes, "Nicole's still changing diapers and singing lullabies to millionaire babies. At least someone's children are getting the benefit of her talents." The way she said talents made it sound like a disease. I took another bite of steak, chewed slowly, swallowed. "Must be nice," Jocelyn chimed in, "having such a simple life. No stress, no real responsibilities. Just playing with toys all day." "And the best part," Benjamin added, leaning back in his chair like he owned the world, "is that there's no pressure to actually succeed at anything. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? A kid cries? Oh no." They all laughed. Even Dad managed a weak chuckle. I set down my plastic fork and reached into my purse. The glossy brochure felt smooth between my fingers as I pulled it out and placed it gently on the table. The laughter died. Meredith's eyes locked onto the image immediately. I watched her face change, the cruel smile melting into something hungry and desperate. "Is that?" she whispered. "The lake house on Willow Creek," I said simply. "The one you've been talking about for, 15 years now?" Meredith's hand shot out to grab the brochure, her fingers trembling slightly as she opened it. "Oh my God, it's back on the market." "I thought it sold," Dad said, leaning over to look. "It did," Meredith breathed, her voice thick with longing. "But the buyers fell through. I've been checking the listing every single day for 3 years. Every single day." Benjamin rolled his eyes. "Mom, you can't afford that place. It's what, 2 million? 3? 4.2, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. "I looked it up," I shrugged. "Seemed like something you'd want to know." Meredith clutched the brochure to her chest like a love letter. "It's perfect. The wraparound porch, the private dock, those gorgeous bay windows, I could host book club there, garden parties. Benjamin, you and Jocelyn could have your wedding reception there." "If we could afford it," Benjamin muttered. "We could take out a loan," Meredith said desperately. "Use the house as collateral, or maybe your father's retirement fund." "Meredith," Dad warned. I watched this little family drama unfold, feeling strangely detached from it all. Like I was watching a movie where I already knew the ending. Well, I said, standing up and brushing imaginary crumbs from my lap. I should probably get going. Early day tomorrow. Of course, Meredith said absently, still staring at the brochure. More babysitting. Something like that. I walked toward the house, leaving my paper plate on the table like the peasant I was supposed to be. But just before I reached the door, I turned back and smiled. Oh, and Mom? You might want to keep an eye on that listing. I hear it's going to sell fast. The rejection letter from State University arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because it was the same day Benjamin got his acceptance to Harvard. Nicole, honey, come downstairs. Meredith's voice rang through the house like a dinner bell. We have news to celebrate. I was 17, sitting on my bedroom floor surrounded by college brochures for early childhood education programs. The thin envelope from State sat unopened on my desk. I already knew what it said. Thin envelopes never brought good news. When I got downstairs, Benjamin was holding a thick packet, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. Which, in Meredith's eyes, he basically had. Harvard! She shrieked, throwing her arms around him. My baby got into Harvard! Dad clapped Benjamin on the back. Knew you had it in you, son. Full academic scholarship, too, Benjamin said, because of course he did. They said my essay on economic theory was exceptionally mature for someone my age. Meredith pressed her hands to her chest like she might faint from pride. I have to call everyone. Your Aunt Susan, the neighbors, my book club. What about Nicole? Dad asked, noticing me standing in the doorway. Any word from your schools? I held up the thin envelope. State University. Didn't get in. The celebration didn't exactly stop, but it definitely dimmed. Like someone had put a lampshade over the sun. Oh, Meredith said, her voice flat. Well, there are other schools. What were you applying for again? Benjamin asked, though I'd told him a dozen times. Early childhood development. I want to study child psychology, maybe get into family counseling. Benjamin snorted. You want to major in toys? It's not toys, I said quietly. It's about understanding how children develop emotionally, how to help them process trauma, build confidence. Sweetie, Meredith interrupted, maybe this is a sign. College is expensive, and if you're just going to end up babysitting anyway, I'm not just babysitting. I want to help families, make a difference in kids' lives. That's very noble, she said in the tone people use when they mean the opposite. But Benjamin needs our focus right now. Harvard is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. 3 months later, I was watching 4-year-old Emma Rodriguez build a tower out of blocks while her mother worked from home upstairs. Miss Nicole, Emma said, carefully placing another block on top, why do some towers fall down? Well, I said, sitting cross-legged beside her, sometimes the foundation isn't strong enough. Or sometimes we build too fast without making sure each piece is secure. Emma nodded seriously, like I'd just explained quantum physics. Like when Mommy and Daddy yell, their tower falls down? My heart clenched. Emma's parents had been fighting a lot lately, loud enough that the neighbors complained. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to build their towers, I said carefully. But that doesn't mean it's your fault when they fall down. Emma looked at me with those huge brown eyes. Will you teach me how to build strong towers? Every day, I promised. That night, I called Selena. I think I'm actually good at this, I told her, pacing around my tiny apartment. Of course you are, Selena said. You've been taking care of everyone else's emotional needs since we were kids. Remember when you talked me through my parents' divorce in 8th grade? This is different. These kids actually listen to me. They trust me. Unlike your family. I winced. Selena. What? I'm just saying. You've got this gift for making people feel heard and valued. but your own family treats you like you're invisible. They don't. Nicole, your mom served you dinner on a paper plate last week. I couldn't argue with that. You know what you should do, Selena continued. Start recording some of this stuff, the things you tell the kids, the techniques you use. Parents would eat that up. Who's going to listen to a college dropout with no credentials? Someone who actually knows what they're talking about. Which you do. 6 months later, I was working for the Shepherds. Michaela was 8 then, all wild curls and fierce intelligence. Her mother Sarah was battling cancer, and her father Clark had basically disappeared into his work to avoid dealing with reality. Why doesn't Daddy come home anymore? Michaela asked one afternoon while we worked on her homework. Sometimes when people are scared, they run away, I said. Even grown-ups. Are you scared of anything, Miss Nicole? I thought about it. Yeah, I'm scared of not mattering. Michaela looked up from her math worksheet. You matter to me. That night, after Michaela was asleep, I sat in my car in their driveway and pulled out my phone. I'd been thinking about what Selena said for months. I opened the camera app and hit record. Hi, I whispered into the phone. I'm Nicole, and I spend my days with some pretty amazing kids who've taught me more about life than any textbook ever could. I paused, looking back at the house where Michaela was probably dreaming about anything but her mother's illness. Today, I want to talk about validation, about how powerful it is to tell a child that their feelings matter, that they matter. Because here's the thing, kids know when you're just going through the motions, and they know when you really see them. I talked for 10 minutes about active listening, about getting down to a child's eye level, about the difference between hearing and understanding. When I finished, I stared at the video for a long time before finally uploading it to a new account I created. Raising Whole Humans. 3 people watched it that first night. By morning, it was 12. 3 years later, I was sitting in a coffee shop with Selena, staring at my laptop screen in disbelief. 200,000, I said for the 3rd time. My book sold 200,000 copies. And that's just in the first 6 months, Selena said, practically bouncing in her chair. The publisher wants to talk about a sequel. And did you see the email from that parenting brand? They want to sponsor your next video series. I scrolled through my inbox. Collaboration requests, speaking engagements, interview requests from podcasts I'd never heard of. My Raising Whole Humans account had 1.2 million followers. This is insane, I muttered. This is what happens when you actually know what you're talking about, Selena said. Remember that video you did about bedtime routines? It has 4 million views. The one I filmed in my pajamas at midnight because I couldn't sleep. That's the one. Parents were sharing it like crazy. Finally, someone who gets it, they kept saying. My phone buzzed with a text from my current family, the Washingtons. Nicole, thank you so much for the advice about Emma's anxiety. She actually slept through the night for the first time in weeks. You're a miracle worker. Speaking of which, Selena said, pulling out a folder, we need to talk business. I've been managing your brand deals and sponsorships, but this is getting too big for me to handle part-time. She slid a contract across the table. I want to quit my marketing job and work for you full-time. Operations manager, business development, whatever you need. I stared at the contract. Selena, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm begging. Do you know how much money you made last month? Just from the book royalties and sponsored content? I shook my head. $47,000. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? And that's a slow month. The month your sleep training course launched, you made $82,000. The numbers felt surreal. 6 months ago, I was making $20 an hour watching other people's kids. Now I was apparently running a business empire from my studio apartment. There's just one thing, Selena said carefully. Your family still thinks you're broke, right? They think I'm a struggling nanny who can barely pay rent. Why haven't you told them? I picked at my muffin. You know why. Nicole. Because the second they find out, everything changes. Suddenly I'll be worth their attention. Suddenly my opinions will matter. But it won't be because I'm their daughter or because I've always been this person. It'll be because I have money. Selena nodded slowly. So what's the plan? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Meredith's name flashed on the screen. Perfect timing, I muttered, answering the call. Hi, Mom. Nicole, honey, I need to talk to you. Her voice was thick with tears, which was unusual. Meredith didn't cry unless there was an audience. What's wrong? It's the house, the lake house. It's back on the market. I sat up straighter. Again? The second buyer fell through. Something about financing. Nicole, this is my last chance. I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like that house is meant to be mine. I've dreamed about it for so long. Selena raised an eyebrow, clearly listening to every word. Mom, houses don't work that way. If you can't afford it. I know. But maybe there's a way. Your father's been talking about taking out a loan against his retirement fund. And Benjamin said he might be able to help with the down payment. Benjamin said that? Well, he said he'd think about it. The point is, I can't let this opportunity slip away again. I've been driving by that house every week for 3 years, Nicole. Every week. I could hear the desperation in her voice. The same desperation I'd felt every time I tried to get her attention as a kid. I have to go, Mom. I'm at work. Of course, sweetie. Give those babies extra hugs from Grandma. She hung up, and I stared at my phone for a long moment. You're thinking about it, Selena said. Thinking about what? Buying the house. I looked at her. That's crazy. Is it? You could afford it. Cash. And then what? Give it to her? Surprise, Mom. Your failure daughter just bought you a $4 million house? Selena leaned forward. Or you could buy it and not give it to her. The idea hit me like a lightning bolt. I opened my laptop and pulled up the real estate listing. The house was gorgeous. Exactly the kind of place Meredith had always dreamed of. Wraparound porch, private dock, those bay windows she'd obsessed over. I can't just buy a house to spite my mother. You wouldn't be buying it to spite her, Selena said quietly. You'd be buying it for someone who actually deserves it. I thought about Michaela, now 13 and still dealing with her father's emotional absence. Sarah had passed away 2 years ago, and Clark had thrown himself even deeper into work. Michaela spent most afternoons alone, texting me about school drama and friend problems. The Michaela Shepherd Trust, I said suddenly. What? If I buy the house, I put it in a trust. For Michaela. She gets a stable place to call home, somewhere she can feel safe and loved. Selena grinned. And your mother gets to watch someone else live her dream. I stared at the listing photos, my finger hovering over my phone screen. This is either the most generous thing I've ever done, I said, or the most petty. Why can't it be both? Clark answered his phone on the 4th ring, sounding exhausted. Nicole? Is everything okay? It's kind of late. I was sitting in my car outside the lake house, staring at the for sale sign. I need to talk to you about Michaela. What about her? Did something happen? Nothing happened, but I have a proposition, and I need you to hear me out before you say no. Silence. Then, I'm listening. I want to buy a house and put it in a trust for Michaela. Somewhere she can have stability, somewhere that's actually hers. Nicole, what are you talking about? You can't afford... I can afford it. Another pause. Longer this time. How can you afford it? That's not important right now. What's important is Michaela. She's been bouncing between your place and her aunt's house since Sarah died. She needs somewhere permanent. She has somewhere permanent. She has me. Clark, when's the last time you were home before 8 p.m.? No answer. She texts me every day after school because there's nobody else to talk to. She's 13 and she's raising herself. I'm doing my best here, Nicole. You think this is easy for me? I think you're drowning, and you're so focused on not going under that you can't see she's drowning too. I heard him take a shaky breath. What kind of house are we talking about? It's on Willow Creek. 4 bedrooms, private dock, big yard. She could have friends over, throw parties when she's older. It would be hers, legally. The trust would cover taxes and maintenance until she turns 18. This sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? I closed my eyes. There's no catch. I care about her, Clark. I've cared about her since she was 8 years old and asking me why her daddy didn't come home anymore. Jesus, Nicole. I'm not trying to replace you. I'm trying to give her something I never had, a place where she matters, where she's the priority. And what do you get out of this? The honest answer was too complicated to explain. How do you tell someone that buying a house for their daughter is partly about healing your own childhood wounds? That every time you see Michaela struggle with feeling invisible, you see yourself at 13, desperate for someone to notice you existed? I get to know she's okay, I said instead. Clark was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Can I see it first? Of course. 2 days later, I met Clark and Michaela at the house. The realtor, Janet, was already there with the keys. Oh my God, Michaela breathed, staring up at the wraparound porch. This place is incredible. 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, Janet said, launching into her sales pitch. Original hardwood floors, updated kitchen, private dock with deep water access. We walked through the house, and I watched Michaela's face light up at every room. She ran her hands along the bay window seats, peered out at the dock, claimed the bedroom with the best lake view. Dad, look at this bathroom, she called from upstairs. It has one of those fancy tubs. Clark stood in the living room, arms crossed, staring out at the water. This is a $4 million house, he said quietly. 4.2, I corrected. Nicole, I need you to be straight with me. How do you have this kind of money? I looked around to make sure Michaela was still upstairs. I started a business, online content about parenting. It took off. What kind of business makes $4 million? The kind where you actually help people instead of just talking about it. He studied my face. You're serious. Dead serious. And you want to give this to Michaela. Just like that. Not give. Trust. She'll own it when she turns 18, but she can live in it now. With you if you want. Or you can keep your place and she can stay here with a live-in caretaker. Miss Nicole, Michaela's voice echoed from upstairs. Come see this closet. It's bigger than my entire bedroom. Clark rubbed his forehead. This is insane. Dad! Michaela came running down the stairs. Can we get it? Please? I know it's probably too expensive, but maybe we could rent it or something? Clark looked at his daughter, really looked at her. For what seemed like the first time in months, she was practically glowing with excitement, more animated than I'd seen her since her mother died. Michaela, I said, what if I told you this house could be yours? What do you mean? I mean legally yours, in a trust with your name on it. Her eyes went wide. Are you serious? I'm serious. She looked between me and her father. But how? Why? Because you deserve a place that's just yours. Because you're one of the most amazing kids I've ever known, and amazing kids deserve amazing things. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. You would do that for me? I would do anything for you. She threw her arms around me and I felt something break open in my chest. This was what love looked like, not conditional, not performance-based, just pure and simple and real. Clark? I said over her shoulder. He was wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. Yeah, he said roughly. Yeah, okay. Let's do it. Janet cleared her throat. So, should I draw up the paperwork? I smiled, still holding Michaela. Make it out to the Michaela Shepherd Trust. 3 weeks later, I stood in the empty living room of the lake house, watching contractors measure windows for new curtains. Michaela sat cross-legged on the floor, sketching furniture arrangements in a notebook. The couch should go here, she said, pointing to the wall facing the lake, so we can watch the sunrise while we eat breakfast. Good thinking, I said. What about the dining room? Big table, like really big. So I can have all my friends over for dinner parties when I'm older. The contractor, Mike, looked up from his measuring tape. You planning on entertaining a lot? I want this to be the kind of house where people feel welcome, Michaela said seriously. Where kids can come if they need somewhere safe to talk. Mike smiled. That's a pretty mature way to think about it. Miss Nicole taught me that homes should be about more than just having a place to sleep. They should be about feeling like you belong somewhere. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. At 13, Michaela understood things about love and belonging that my own family had never figured out. Speaking of which, I said, your dad's picking you up in an hour. You should probably pack up your sketches. Can I show you something first? She pulled out her phone and opened a video. I've been watching your content. My stomach dropped. Michaela, relax. I'm not going to out you or anything. But Nicole, this stuff is incredible. This video about helping kids process grief, it's like you were talking directly to me. She hit play, and my own voice filled the empty room. Grief isn't something you get over, it's something you learn to carry. And the goal isn't to make the sadness go away, it's to make room for joy to exist alongside it. That's when I knew, Michaela said, pausing the video. You didn't just buy me this house because you felt sorry for me. You bought it because you actually understand what it's like to feel invisible. Mike had stopped measuring and was pretending not to listen, but I could tell he was paying attention. Michaela, my mom used to say that some people are born knowing how to love people, and some people have to learn it the hard way. You learned it the hard way, didn't you? I sat down on the floor next to her. Yeah. I did. Is that why you haven't told your family about your business? Because you're afraid they'll only love the successful version of you? Sometimes I forgot how perceptive she was. Sarah had raised her to be emotionally intelligent, to ask the hard questions, and sit with uncomfortable truths. Something like that. That's really sad, she said simply. They're missing out on knowing the real you. The real me isn't very impressive. Are you kidding? Michaela gestured around the room. You bought me a house. You've helped millions of parents raise happier kids. You made my dad cry happy tears for the first time since Mom died. How is that not impressive? Mike cleared his throat. Sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help overhearing. You're raising whole humans, aren't you? I nodded reluctantly. My wife follows your account religiously. She's always quoting your videos at me. Mike, Nicole says we need to validate Emma's feelings even when she's being unreasonable. Mike, Nicole says bedtime battles are really about connection, not control. Does it help? I asked. Our 4-year-old went from screaming every night to actually looking forward to bedtime. So yeah, it helps. Michaela beamed. See? You're changing lives. My phone buzzed with a text from Meredith. Nicole, honey, can you come to dinner Sunday? Benjamin has news to share, and I want the whole family there. Family dinner, I told Michaela, showing her the text. Are you going to tell them? Tell them what? About this. She gestured around the room. About me. About who you really are. I stared at the text message. Benjamin probably got another promotion or closed some big deal. There would be champagne and congratulations and stories about his brilliance. I'd sit there with my paper plate, listening to them celebrate someone who'd never once asked about my dreams. I don't know, I said. What if I came with you? Michaela, no. These dinners they're not fun. I'm not going for fun. I'm going to meet the people who raised the woman who saved my life. I didn't save your life. You gave me a home when my own father was too broken to see that I needed one. You showed up every day when everyone else disappeared. You bought me a house, Nicole. A house. How is that not saving my life? Mike was openly listening now, not even pretending to work. Besides, Michaela continued, I want to see their faces when they realize what they've been missing. It's not about revenge, Michaela. I know. It's about truth. And the truth is that you're amazing, and they should know that. I looked around the room, at the bay windows Meredith had dreamed about, at the hardwood floors she'd imagined walking across, at the view she'd pictured enjoying every morning with her coffee. Okay, I said, but we're not telling them about the house until I'm ready. Deal. But Nicole? Yeah? When you are ready, I want to be the one to hand them the deed. I smiled despite myself. Why? Because I want to thank the person who gave me a home, and I want them to see exactly who that person is. Sunday dinner at my parents' house felt like walking into a museum exhibit titled The Perfect American Family, if you ignored the paper plates and the daughter sitting in the corner. Nicole, Meredith exclaimed when I walked in with Michaela. You brought a friend. This is Michaela, I said. I used to be her nanny. Used to be? Benjamin looked up from his phone. Did you get fired? Her mother passed away, I said quietly. I still help out sometimes. The room went awkward silent for exactly 3 seconds before Meredith recovered with her hostess smile. Well, any friend of Nicole's is welcome here. Michaela, what a pretty name. Are you hungry, sweetheart? Starving, Michaela said politely. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Ryan. Jocelyn appeared from the kitchen carrying a bottle of champagne. Benjamin, should I open this now or wait until after dinner? What are we celebrating? I asked. Benjamin grinned. Partnership track. They're fast-tracking me, youngest associate partner in the firm's history. That's wonderful, I said, and meant it. Congratulations. 60% salary increase, he continued, because Benjamin never met a success he couldn't quantify. Plus bonuses, plus equity. We're talking serious money. How serious? Michaela asked innocently. Benjamin puffed up. Let's just say I could buy a pretty nice house with this year's bonus alone. Speaking of houses, Meredith said, her voice turning wistful, that lake house sold again, to some mystery buyer who paid cash. Can you imagine having that kind of money just sitting around? I felt Michaela tense beside me. 4.2 million, Meredith continued. In cash. The realtor said it was some kind of trust. Probably some tech billionaire buying it for their kid. Must be nice, Jocelyn said, having that kind of generational wealth. Some people are just born lucky. Or they work for it, Michaela said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. I mean, she continued, maybe whoever bought it earned that money. Maybe they built something meaningful and used their success to help someone they care about. Benjamin laughed. Sweetheart, nobody makes $4 million helping people. That's investment money, trust fund money, old money. You don't think someone could build a business helping families? What kind of business? Jocelyn asked, amused. I don't know. Maybe teaching parents how to raise emotionally healthy kids. Maybe writing books about child development. Maybe creating content that actually makes a difference in people's lives. The room fell silent. Meredith set down her wineglass. That's very idealistic, dear, she said carefully. But those kinds of ventures don't typically generate serious wealth. Why not? Michaela pressed. If someone was really good at it, if they helped millions of families, why couldn't that be worth millions of dollars? Benjamin was staring at Michaela now, something shifting in his expression. Because, he said slowly, parenting advice is a dime a dozen. Anyone can tell people how to raise kids. It's not exactly rocket science. Is it not? Michaela's voice was getting sharper. Because from what I've seen, most adults have no idea how to talk to children. They don't know how to validate emotions or set healthy boundaries or help kids process trauma. Michaela, I warned quietly. No, it's okay, she said, looking directly at Benjamin. I'm just curious about something. Do you have kids? Not yet, but... So you've never actually had to comfort a crying toddler at 3 a.m.? Never had to explain death to an 8-year-old? Never had to help a teenager work through anxiety or depression? Benjamin's jaw tightened. I don't need to have kids to understand that parenting isn't some complex professional skill. Then why are so many parents desperate for help? Michaela interrupted. Why do they spend billions of dollars on books and courses and therapy? Why are kids' mental health rates getting worse every year? Jocelyn was watching this exchange with growing interest, her eyes darting between Michaela and me. Maybe, Michaela continued, the person who bought that house actually understands something you don't. Maybe they know that helping families isn't just idealistic, it's essential. And maybe they're successful because they're actually good at something that matters. Michaela, I said again, but she was on a roll. Maybe they've spent years learning how to help kids feel seen and valued and understood. Maybe they've built something beautiful from nothing, and they're using their success to give other people the love and stability they never had. The room was dead silent now. Even Dad had looked up from his newspaper. Jocelyn cleared her throat. You seem to know a lot about this mysterious buyer. Michaela smiled. I know a lot about people who help kids. I've been lucky enough to have someone like that in my life. She looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes. A question, a challenge, a promise. Actually, she said, reaching into her purse, there's something I want to show everyone. My heart stopped. Michaela, don't... But she was already pulling out a folded document, her hands steady as she placed it on the dining room table. I want to thank the person who gave me a home. Michaela unfolded the document with the deliberate care of someone defusing a bomb. This, she said, smoothing out the creases, is the deed to 847 Willow Creek Lane. The lake house you've been dreaming about for 15 years, Mrs. Ryan. Meredith's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. What are you talking about? Benjamin demanded, leaning forward to read the document. It's owned by the Michaela Shepherd Trust, Michaela continued, her voice steady and clear, which means it's legally mine, but I didn't buy it. She looked directly at me. Nicole did. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. That's impossible, Meredith whispered. Is it? Michaela asked. Nicole, how many followers do you have on your Raising Whole Humans account? My mouth felt like sandpaper. Michaela! 1.4 million, she answered for me. How many copies did your book sell? Don't. 300,000 and counting. How much did you make last month from your online courses and brand partnerships? Benjamin was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Nicole, what is she talking about? Michaela pulled out her phone and opened my Instagram account. This is Nicole, Raising Whole Humans. She's one of the most successful parenting influencers in the country. She scrolled through the posts, videos of me talking about emotional regulation, photos of activities I'd designed, testimonials from grateful parents. 4 million views on this video alone, Michaela said, showing them my content about helping kids process grief, the one that got me through the worst year of my life. Jocelyn grabbed the phone, her eyes widening as she scrolled. Holy shit! This is you? You're the Nicole everyone's talking about? Language, Meredith said automatically, but her voice was faint. Mom, do you have any idea how big this is? Jocelyn turned the phone toward Benjamin. I follow her. I've been following her for months. She's massive. Benjamin snatched the phone, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and something that might have been fear. This can't be real, he said. Nicole doesn't, she can't what? Michaela asked sweetly. Be successful? Be talented? Be worth something? How long? Meredith's voice was barely a whisper. 3 years, I said quietly. It started 3 years ago. 3 years. Meredith stood up slowly, wine staining her white blouse. You've been lying to us for 3 years. I wasn't lying. I just wasn't telling you everything. You let us think you were struggling, Benjamin said, his voice rising. You sat there while you what? I asked. While you mocked me? While you called my work playing house? While you served me dinner on paper plates? We didn't know. You didn't know, because you never asked. You never once asked what I was actually doing with my life. You just assumed I was failing, because that fit your narrative better. Meredith was staring at the deed like it might bite her. You bought my house. I bought Michaela a house. There's a difference. You bought the house I've wanted for 15 years and gave it to a stranger. She's not a stranger. She's the daughter I chose to love. The words hung in the air like smoke. Meredith flinched as if I'd slapped her. That's cruel, she said. Is it? Or is it honest? Benjamin was still scrolling through my content, his face getting redder by the second. Do you have any idea what this looks like? My sister is some kind of internet celebrity, and I had no idea? Your sister, Michaela said, standing up, is someone who saw a 13-year-old girl losing her mother and decided to make sure she never felt alone. Your sister built an empire helping families love each other better. Your sister is extraordinary. She's manipulative, Meredith snapped. This whole thing is manipulative. Bringing you here, orchestrating this reveal, I orchestrated it, Michaela said calmly. Nicole didn't want to tell you. She was protecting you from the truth because she knew it would hurt your feelings to realize how wrong you've been about her. Wrong about what? About everything. Michaela's voice was getting stronger. You think she's the failure in this family? Look around. She's the only one who figured out how to love people without conditions. She's the only one who builds people up instead of tearing them down. Dad finally spoke from his corner. Nicole, is this all true? I nodded. The money, the business, the house, all of it? All of it. He set down his newspaper and looked at me. Really looked at me, for what felt like the first time in years. I'm proud of you, he said simply. Meredith whirled on him. Proud? She humiliated us. She made us look like fools. No, Michaela said, picking up the deed. You did that yourselves. She walked over to Meredith and held out the document. This house could have been yours. Nicole would have given it to you in a heartbeat if you'd ever once made her feel like she mattered to you. Instead, she gave it to someone who sees her worth. Meredith stared at the deed, but didn't take it. The useless daughter you never wanted, I said, standing up, turned out to be someone else's hero. I walked toward the door, Michaela beside me. Nicole, wait, Benjamin started. No, I said without turning around. I'm done waiting. The fallout started within hours. Selena called me while I was driving Michaela home. Nicole, your phone is blowing up. Someone recorded the whole thing and posted it on TikTok. What do you mean someone recorded it? Jocelyn. She live-streamed the entire reveal on her Instagram story. It's already been screen recorded and shared thousands of times. Paper plate revenge is trending. I pulled over, my hands shaking. This is a disaster. Actually, it's not. The comments are incredible. People are calling you a hero. This is what generational wealth should look like. She chose love over blood. Finally, someone who puts kids first. Michaela squeezed my arm. See? I told you people would understand. But not everyone understood. Benjamin called that night, his voice tight with panic. Nicole, you have to fix this. The partners at my firm saw the video. They're asking questions about my family situation, about why I didn't know my sister was successful. It's making me look out of touch. I'm sorry your reputation is suffering, I said, not sorry at all. This isn't a joke. My promotion could be in jeopardy. Can't you post something? Explain that it was all a misunderstanding? What misunderstanding? That you spent years treating me like garbage? That you never once asked about my life? That you mocked my career while I was building an empire? Nicole, please. I hung up. The next call was from Dad. Your mother liquidated her retirement account, he said without preamble. What? She was so desperate to buy that house before you revealed the truth. She took out loans, cashed in everything. She was planning to make an offer this week. My stomach dropped. Dad, I didn't know. I know you didn't. But Nicole, we're in serious financial trouble now. The house sold, the money's gone, and we're left with debt we can't handle. How much debt? Enough that we might lose our house. I closed my eyes. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd wanted them to see my worth, not destroy their lives. Dad, let me help. No, your mother won't accept money from you. She's too proud, too angry. She keeps saying you planned this, that you wanted to ruin us. I didn't want to ruin anyone. I know. But intentions don't always match consequences. The hardest call came from Clark. Nicole, I need you to stay away from Michaela. What? Why? Because this whole thing has gotten out of control. She's 13 years old, and she's being dragged through social media drama. People are calling our house wanting interviews. She missed school today because reporters were waiting outside. Clark, I never meant for this to happen. I know, but it did happen. And now my daughter is in the middle of some viral revenge story instead of just being a kid. She loves that house. It's her home now. A home that comes with a price I didn't understand. I'm putting it on the market. You can't do that. It's in her trust. I'm her father. I can dissolve the trust if I think it's in her best interest. And right now, I think the best thing for Michaela is distance from all of this. The line went dead. I sat in my apartment that night, scrolling through the comments on the viral video. Most were supportive, but some cut deep. Using a grieving child as a prop for revenge is disgusting. This isn't heartwarming, it's manipulative. She destroyed her own family for internet points. Maybe they were right. Maybe I'd let my pain turn me into someone I didn't recognize. My doorbell rang. I opened it to find Michaela standing there with a letter in her hands. I walked here, she said. Dad doesn't know. Michaela, you can't just... I wrote you something. She held out the letter. Before you read it, I need you to know that what happened at dinner wasn't your fault. I chose to reveal the truth because I was tired of watching them treat you like you didn't matter. I unfolded the letter, written in her careful 13-year-old handwriting. Dear Nicole, my mom used to say that some people are born knowing how to love, and some people have to learn it the hard way. You learned it the hard way, but you learned it better than anyone. You didn't buy me a house to hurt your family. You bought it because you saw a kid who needed to know she was worth something. That's not revenge. That's love. I know Dad wants to sell it, and I know you're feeling guilty about everything that happened, but I need you to know that for the first time since Mom died, I felt like someone chose me first. Not out of obligation or guilt, but because they actually wanted me to be happy. That feeling is worth more than any house, You taught me that homes aren't built on blood. They're built on the people who show up, who stay, who choose to love you even when it's hard. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for staying. Thank you for choosing me. Love, Michaela. P.S. I don't care what anyone says online. You're not manipulative. You're just someone who figured out how to turn pain into purpose. That's not something to apologize for. I looked up to find her watching me with those wise eyes. Michaela, I'm so sorry this got so complicated. It was always going to be complicated, she said. That's what happens when you finally tell the truth after years of hiding it. But complicated doesn't mean wrong. She hugged me tight. Besides, she said, pulling back with a grin, I've decided I don't want to sell the house. Your dad said, my dad's scared. But I'm not. I want to keep it, and I want you to help me turn it into something amazing. A place where kids like us can come when they need to remember they're worth something. I stared at her. Kids like us? Kids who had to learn the hard way that love isn't guaranteed. Kids who know what it feels like to be invisible. Kids who need someone to choose them first. She was right. The house wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about transformation, taking something my mother coveted and turning it into something that actually mattered. What do you think? Michaela asked. Want to build something beautiful together? I smiled, thinking about all the paper plates and dismissive comments and years of feeling invisible. Yeah, I said. Let's build something beautiful. Turns out, some homes are built on love, not blood, and even paper plates can carry power if you know how to serve what's on them.